Would request Sky Professor Dr. Prakash from UK to deliver the welcome address. A brief introduction about Sir. Sky Professor Dr. Prakash hails from Satur, Tamil Nadu, completed his MBBS and MS at Madurai Medical College, FRCS in Royal College, Edinburgh. Specialized plastic surgeon, practicing at Hurley on cosmetic reconstructive surgeon, age management and regenerative medicine. Associated with Sky System since 1996. Learned Kayakalpa from Vethathiri Maharishi himself. Done extensive research in 2007 on pelvic pain and Kayakalpa in London. Over to you, sir.
வணக்கம். வாழ்க வையகம், வாழ்க வளமுடன், குருவே துணை. அனைவருக்கும் மிக்க நன்றி. The topic I like to very much interested in this is consciousness and mind, especially Professor Perumal, and is going to talk about it today. I'm really looking forward to hear his lecture and enlighten everybody. The most important part of Maharishi's teaching is the way of life. I learned a lot from Maharishi's in way of life, how to conduct my life, and also how to make science and spirituality connections and make sure everybody's life, spirituality is an integral part of life. So since Vethathiri Maharishi's guidance and blessings, my scientific knowledge make it life very easy to understand and express and make others to follow the science very easily with spiritual knowledge and guidance. So the most important part of mind and the consciousness, mind is a part of consciousness or expression of consciousness, as Vethathiri Maharishi always says, is the two parallel lines or the tools that we guide us in our life is the meditation and introspection, dhyanam and ahataivu. These two tools are the one take us to the present consciousness, to the subconsciousness, to the superconsciousness. So the mind is the carrier which take us to the right way of life. So I always feel with the disciples of, as a disciple of Vethathiri Maharishi, the meditation and introspection are the most vital tool every day, every minute, every hour. We need to think how we handle ourselves, our mind, to the path of good life. So the most important thing, the modern younger generation, I like to really guide the science of the nature or the modern science and spirituality. I always compare Kayakalpa and modern science and Vethathirian and modern science. Like a sexual vital fluid is the most important hormones and vitamins and minerals in the body, as well as the depletion of biomagnetism is the loss of polarity of cells. So I always look at the modern science and the Vethathirian to make simplified, to make the younger generation to understand and follow the spirituality in the lighter sense rather than as a myth. So my plea to all the younger generation, look at the Vethathirian as the most simplified spiritual path. So whenever I enter the temple of consciousness in the aliyar, I feel I carry the mind. The Vethathirian is the light to lead my mind into the right path. So the temple of consciousness is the light that our Guru has given the light to our mind to the right path to lead our life into a very peaceful, successful, complete, enlightened life. Valga Valamudan. Valga Vayagam.
Thanks, sir, for the welcome address. As per Sigmund Freud, the conscious mind may be compared to a fountain playing in the sun and falling back into the great pool of subconscious from which it rises. Now, the Director General of Vision for Wisdom, Dr. N.A.Perumal sir from Ariyar, going to share his insightful thoughts about consciousness mind. Sir is associated with the Sky System since 1980, initiated by Yogiraj Vethathiri Maharishi. Served for World Community Service Center for the past 30 plus years, initiating more than 1,000 aspirants. Played a vital role in setting up Vision, the education wing of World Community Service Center. Structured yoga for youth empowerment and yoga for women empowerment. Spread Sky Yoga through empowering the teachers to empower the students scheme by training more than 1 lakh teachers. Made tied up with 22 state universities, 7 private universities, and 1 overseas universities as well. Customized the Vision courses to offer blended web-based programs, enabling overseas aspirants to learn Sky Yoga comfortably. Architect of Vethathiri Maharishi of Yoga, Chennai. He has written 10 Yoga for Human Excellence book, which are used as study material for Vision courses. He also authored 5 net-based books in Tamil and English. Currently working to set up Vethathiri Maharishi Spiritual University, dedicated to make World Community Service Center as Center of Excellence. இப்பொழுது நமது முதுநிலை பேராசிரியர், மருத்துவர் மற்றும் முனைவர் டாக்டர் N.A.Perumal ஐயாவை கான்சியஸ் மைண்ட் என்ற தலைப்பில் சிந்தனையை பகிர அழைக்கிறோம். Over to you, sir.
வாழ்க வையகம், குருவே துணை. All by the grace of Maharishi. Let us invoke the blessings of Vethathiri Maharishi, and with these blessings we begin the discussions. At the outset, I appreciate the organizers, particularly Dr. Rabindranath, for arranging this type of discussion. And also I am very happy that our doctor is also, Prakash also here. My presentation is based on Swamiji's concept of consciousness and mind. During 1992, myself along with Swamiji and 2 more aspirants stayed at Mahabalipuram and discussed universal magnetism and its formations and applications based on static state. Yes, the total organs and salient features of the deliberations are presented here. Some of the organs you might have heard superficially. But once we dive deep into consciousness, and it is wonderful experience and many facts are revealed. Now let us discuss, first know about what is consciousness and mind. During 1968, Swamiji wrote a poem on Iraivanakam, divinity. What is that? Adiyanum Paramborul me Elichi Petru. Aspirants were questioned how the divinity raised. Elichi Petru, eppadi Elichi Petru, enna Swamiji kekkறாங்க. Maharishi again thought over it and write another poem in 1989. அழுத்தம் என்னும் உந்து ஆற்றல் ஒன்றை கொண்டே அணுமுதல் ஆண்ட ஊடிகளாய். Again, some of the aspirants questioned Swamiji that how and where from the force Alutam came. Again, Swamiji, I think it was thought over it that the force is within the static state. And during that time, he writes the poem, Iraveliye Tannirika Soondratum Atal. Again, in 1995, he started the Brahmayana course at Kumbakonam. He wants to explain it through a scientific forum. In 2003, we arranged a scientific forum, particularly the members are only scientists, that too from Kalpakam Atomic Research Station. 3 days program went on, and on the last day was question and answer. One of the scientists asked Swamiji, we are accepting Kadavul, Gandham, magnetism, etc. But how the fundamental particle wind has formed? Now, later Swamiji realized that the wind particle is nothing but association of dust particle, which emanate from self-compressive surrounding pressure force. After that, he wants to introduce in the education system, vision has formed. Yes, so far, Swamiji has very much confirmed with the force. Now let us see how the conscious has played the main role in this topic. At first, we will go through the subject related to consciousness and mind. What Swamiji mentioned in consciousness mind. So this is the table of contents, and these are the subjects we have discussed with Swamiji, and all related to consciousness. So consciousness, first stage, second stage, and third stage. And these 4 principles. There's core principle, unified force plenum, and all the things. Core principles 2, the Vedanta formations. Core principle 3, Johann. Core principle 4, universal magnetism. And first order of motion as evolution. Second order perceptual ability. And core principles. Perceptions, different types of perception. Let us see later. All the things let us see later. What are subjects it has present is the thing to thought. How the miraculous leaves unbreachable chasm, missing link. Premise of thought, mind and spiritual ghost, the nature of mind and brain, origin of mind and adoption of mind, and genetics and attractive force. Power of thought, how the thought emerges. So other end of mind is total consciousness. And epilogue lastly. So these are all the subjects are related to the conscious. Now, conscious and mind, that's the only subject mind. So people, friends, conscious is a Latin word, and original meaning is knowing or aware. I know you are all conscious, aware of consciousness. So I respect and wish you all good health, long life, enough health, peace and prosperity by the grace of Almighty. I was commanded to speak about consciousness mind. There is a Tamil word, Manav Sakshi, or mind's witness. Let us see in details. The word conscious and mind are one and the same in meaning. The word conscious is used elaborately in both the fields of philosophy and science. The word mind is used to describe the behavioral qualities and living beings. Actually, the inner meaning of both the words are one and the same. Similarly, the force and conscious are inseparable and indivisible. the structural values that are perceptible to the senses are determined by the force, and the qualities that are imperceptible are determined by the consciousness. So force and consciousness. These two values of quantity and quality are the manifestation of force and conscious and mind. The consciousness blossoms from the static state in the beginning as motion or force in the form of a minute whirling wave, which is called the fundamental energy particle. The first motion is the energy particle, the tiny whirling wave. This is distinct from static state, the absolute state, by comparison between stillness and motion. Conscious in the nature of force plays a characteristic roles in three distinct stages. The three inseparable principles of each. The three stages of the conscious are order of motion, perceptual ability, and mind. Friends, today the three main subjective phenomena: the primordial unified force, the infinity fundamental energy particle, and mind, which is consciousness working through the biometry wave consciousness. But all three are clearly outside the scope of science. But unless and until the power, the qualities, the functions and the results of these three invisible subjective phenomena, and such understanding is incorporated into our science, no branch of science will be fulfilled to their perfection and to the optimum benefit. For the reason, friends, there are dead ends in every field of science. In the field of science of physics, gravitational force is not yet understood to the root. Because the nature and evolution process of the fundamental particles are still elusive, because of the lack of comprehension of the power and the qualities of the eternal space. In the field of biology, living beings, did the living beings evolve from inorganic matter? The Big Bang theory says the inorganic matter, or are they created? The main difference between inorganic matter and the organism with the physical structure to feel pain and pressure is not yet explained, because the existential functioning and results of mind are not known. And also, the existence of soul or life force and magnetic theory and the importance of sexual vital fluid in physical body of a living organism. In the field of psychology, the central phenomenon of mind is still an area of conjecture. Without a complete knowledge of mind, how to rationalize and moralize their living process. The emergency and functions of light, sound, taste, smell, and mind are not known yet, because the evolution of magnetism and the force and nature are not understood. In the field of genetics, the actual mechanism of mutation, gene expression, and their functions influenced by biometric genetics and in types of cause and effect system, at least understood. Furthermore, science talks of the unified force, but in a limited sense. Science is yet to realize the all-pervading divine character of the unified force, consciousness. If anyone realizes the unified force as God, he should realize his quality is consciousness, the order of function through the universe, and this is the mind of God. Generally, human consciousness developed in four main stages: to fulfill the needs of the physical body, to enjoy the beauties of nature, to understand the divine principle gravity. All content, all matter is gravity. The gravity is the primordial state of the universe. It is imperceptible, itself pronoun, conscious, and force and time. These four are the inherent qualities of the divine principle of gravity. Although this divine principle, primordial state of the universe, gravity is imperceptible, subjective phenomena, its existence with all its attributes has been realized by the philosophers who have achieved the superactive state of consciousness by proper method of psychic practice. Why the conscious is to be questioned? What is the importance of consciousness? Because many are trying to understand consciousness. So consciousness is most subtle, but it is very much discussed. Not only in the area of science, but also philosophy, literature, yoga, psychology, and many more occult sciences. The most rich variable in terms conscious means aware of. But how to aware of, what is to be aware of, when to be aware of, these are all some questions which are increasing secrets of consciousness. Most of the people nowadays are thinking about consciousness. Conscious is being aware of, that means a person is always aware. He thinks he is aware of self, his self as the subject, object, and as an action, and as an entire result and actions. And these are all different facets of consciousness. Now we will try to analyze the idea of consciousness. The classic word chit. The word chit is true. Chit means Chaitanya in the movement. It is a Sanskrit word. Conscious means Chaitanya. Whatever is moving, whatever is said to be having a movement, whatever is found to have aware of movement is having Chaitanya. And these state of awakening, dream, sleep are said to be consciousness. Now, any type of friction or any type of response outside and within encircling and empowering is called as consciousness. Consciousness is said to be understood differently like different people. For example, a person is looking at a flower. The person's body is having consciousness. The look is having consciousness. The awareness that he is having consciousness. The flower is having consciousness. And the awareness caused by his consciousness. That means the consciousness externally, the terrestrial plane to that transmental plane. All these are all points of the scale. The scale is universal, integral, all pervading areas. It is bound to be divided into different pieces, but at the same time, function as an integral unit. We will take our human body from toe to the head. The entire body is having consciousness. It is a running thread. It is Sthula, Sukuma, and the Karma Deha. They are simply physical or physiological limitations. Reason behind is consciousness is not the mind, consciousness is not the soul, consciousness is not the dreams, and consciousness is not the body or soul. Then what is consciousness? Two dimensions of consciousness. Consciousness is understood to be differently by different people at different times. Consciousness is so much subtle and at the same time very much intelligible. Then it is intelligible. Man's thinking is to be, he is aware of consciousness. When it is subtle, he thinks that he is ignoring consciousness. That awareness and ignorance will two dimensions of consciousness. For example, in the daytime, man loses at everything. In the night, even when he looks with the same eye, it is not perceptible. Perception is consciousness. In the sleep, perception is there. In the state of awakening, perception is there. For the dream also, conscious perception is there. Perception is consciousness. Consciousness is aware of integral unit is universal. Cosmos, including terrestrial plane and the infinite bodies. They are all equipped with the thread of consciousness, the element of consciousness. It is the division and integration. It is subtle and aware. It is intelligible. In such a situation, how are you going to say the consciousness distinguishes the consciousness? Consciousness is to simply understand through pro-cognitive identities. If one fails to understand, does not mean the consciousness is absent. The consciousness always be present. It is present everywhere. The consciousness to be understood not in literal terms, not in world terms, not in psychological terms, or in sensory terms, because these are all having limitation on their own. They cannot express, they can't receive, they can't respond, but beyond the perceptions, beyond the response, beyond every action and conviction, beyond every conception, there is a source of force, and that may be called consciousness. So, consciousness is the attribute of nature. It is present in every state of universal evolution and is responsible for all the order of functions precisely as and when, as and how it is necessary. Whenever the principle of force starts functioning, its companion attribute consciousness directs and regulates the force with a pattern, precision, and regularity. That is the law of nature. Under this immutable law of nature, the consciousness is immanently present in all kinds of transformations and magnetism. Although the absolute space is considered to be nothingness by the mind, the integral part of the absolute space is the consciousness. It is omniscient and its function as the all penetrating consciousness in all inanimate things in the order of function, in all living beings as the perception and phenomena, and in all humans as a sixth sense, which is having the potential ability of self-realizations. For simple understanding, the absolute space is the universal being, and its power or force is the consciousness. When the inherent force of the universal being is isolated as energy particle, the consciousness starts its play as character in everything from that point to entire universal functions. Consciousness which maintains order of concerns in everything in the universe, invisible quality of nature. Here, consciousness directs and orders the compressive and repulsive forces of the everything by determining and maintaining. The three parameters of pattern, that is structural specifications, the precision, the sum of characters, and sum of characters, quality accrued upon the person, and regularity, the timing of every existence and actions. So consciousness is a crucial principle in the field of both physiology and science. Here to note that in the very beginning, consciousness was one with the state of origin. When it moved to the state of energy, the variations in its movement or speed were the various stages of evolutions. Conscious appearance and movements are separately interlinked in everything of evolution. So, conscious begins in Paramanu itself. It evolved and according to the association particles of 5 elements and thus inanimate formed. When it is converted into animate in all chemical reactions, compounds formed in different forms. When nature urged and RNA formed in its imprint changed. If it has the environment, it will multiply on its own. It is a virus. So today's hot topic is COVID-19 pandemic. If 2 RNA makes a compound, it is DNA, which also is virus and has same character as RNA, but RNA is virulent but unstable, whereas the DNA is less viral. Many writers and philosophers have given definition for life. It is a phenomenon comprising so many actions and secrets of the universe. In philosophical understanding, the life means an action or movement of truth. That the truth is the prime state of nature, you all know. Truth is the matter state. It is Almighty. It is also God. The subtle particle action of truth is atom Paramanu, the tiniest particle, which is indivisible. Tinier than Higgs boson, not chemistry atom, hydrogen is as one. In action say it is known as Paramanu or atom. This is life. The life is the action state of truth. The atom is the first action of truth. It is called life in philosophical term. This action is the fundamental action of the universe. Repulsive and attractive forces start from this action, which is called universal magnetism or life in the living body. It encircles atoms, molecules, cells of body and converts or releases the surface force of them is light, sound, taste, smell, etc., and absorbs in the space. In the same way, it functions as sensing action also. Therefore, calling the manifold functions of Paramanu in the living body as life is correct. Now we will see mind. The human mind is the fractional part of total consciousness. In the culmination of potential, it is able to expand to the universe, penetrative understanding of the existence, and finally getting contact with this primordial state, the eternal space, the static state. எவ்வளவு விரியும் எங்கேயும் போகும் அதனால மைண்டால அதே மாதிரி எவ்வளவு சுருங்கமும் அணு வர சுருங்க முடியும். However, for those whose minds are perceptually conditioned, the gravity and its three attributes, plenum, force, consciousness, time, are invisible. As milk hidden in the yogurt and sugar is hidden in the fruit juice in the process of transformations. So mind is a very important tool of the body. Without mind, a living being cannot be identified as surviving at all. The assertive, receptive, and communicative capacity are vested through the mind only. Mind is anatomically not raised, but physiologically being functioning well connected with the nervous system. The reflex activity and the voluntary and involuntary activities of living beings are generally controlling through the mind. The mind is like a screen to make the persons view the outside world inwardly. Mind is traditionally called in Sanskrit yoga text as mana. Mana or mind is one of the important modifications of the primordial nature. Mind is characterized by a will to do and will to withdraw. Allegorically, it has been told that mind is the reason for a person to think that he is bound by a bondage and he seeks emancipation and freedom from the bondage. And now, let us see the functions of mind. The functions of mind can be found as consciousness through the thought to feel sensation, to react, and also to witness the transformation of biomagnetism. The words consciousness and mind are one of the same meaning. The word conscious is used elaborately in fourth pillars of philosophy and science. The word mind is used to describe the behavioral qualities of living beings. Actually, the inner meaning of both words is one of the same. The force and conscious are inseparable, undifferentiated, indispensable, and indivisible. All the structural values that are perceptible to the senses are determined by force, and all the qualities that are imperceptible or imponderable are determined by consciousness. These are 2 points, main points. These two values of quantity and quality are the manifestation of force and consciousness. For a long time, I was swimming in the ocean of mind in order to understand the values, existence, functions, and results. I could not realize the fact that the principle I was searching for was the very one which I was swimming. In fact, in and around me, only the great ocean of mind was ubiquitously functioning. All the time in all my activities, the aim and focus of understanding mind was ceaselessly going on. One morning at about 4 a.m., all of a sudden an intuitive vision came to me. In it, I perceived that I am the mind wave, which is nothing but biometry wave, taking all the shapes and images of my vision, and at the same time, I was feeling the results are enjoyable or otherwise. At this point, I realized that only the mind as the biometry wave takes the shapes and images of everything I pursue. And at the same time, I as the mind am enjoying the benefits as pleasure, pain, peace, and ecstasy. The study of mind at the outset requires a specific distinction from the brain. The brain is said to be like the hardware in a computer and the mind is the software. To be specific, the invisible dimension of the brain is the mind and the visible dimension of mind is the brain. The difference between the brain and mind. Brain is a physical entity and it coordinates distinctive portion of the nervous system. For instance, the ascending tract is the sensory tract, which it transmits the nerve impulses from peripheral organs to the brain. The descending tract is the motor tract, which sends the nerve impulses from the brain to the muscles and glands. Mind is a magnetic entity without any phenomenal mass. So brain is related to the sensory system and the actions. On the other hand, mind is having more inclination for the sensory aspects and the emotional dimensions. Brain is the ventilator and receptor of the forces. Mind itself is the force being an outlay of the magnetism. Brain is said to be instrument to receive, interpret, and release experience. On the other hand, mind is a magnetic wave. Brain is connected with the nervous system and physical mass associated with the same. On the other hand, mind is connected with the genetic center. Brain can ventilate outwardly and contact all the visible and tangible units. On the other hand, mind is related with the astral body and the cosmic forces. Brain coordinates all functions of human organisms. Mind controls the functions of the human organism. Brain expands the energy and mind itself is shadow and extends the dimensions of energy. So mind is lexically defined as the faculty of consciousness and thought. Maharishi defines mind to be the field of all transformation of biomatters into sensation, the realization of all experiment, and that which acts accordingly. Mind is also said to be an extended way of magnetism. Because mind is said to be only the faculty, it is formless. As it is formless, it has no structure of its own. Only the structure of the brain can be taken as the structure of the mind by default. So generally states of consciousness mean there are 7 states of consciousness: waking consciousness, dreaming sleep consciousness, transcendental, jakaram, soppanam, suliti. That's all. All the things are there. So somehow, although the absolute space is considered to be nothing but the mind, the inherent power of the absolute space is consciousness. It is omniscient as its functions, as the all penetrating consciousness in all inanimate things is the order of function. In all living beings, as the percepts and phenomena, and in all humans as a sixth sense, which is having the potential and ability of self-realization. For simple understanding, the absolute space is the universal being, and its power of force is the consciousness. When the incurrent force of the universal being is isolated, an energy particle, the conscious starts its play as character in everything from that point to the entire universal functions. Our sense perceptions are extended to body consciousness up to 5 sense beings. Consciousness that is present but submerged in these things seeks to be spread out to emerge and become one with that of origin, the truth said. And it is this earth that constitutes 6 senses, or rather you. We can now comprehend that we are consciousness in this peripheral state, flickering as mind within the physical body. Beyond that, we are consciousness, static state of universal being. The fractional total consciousness seated in the soul particle is in the form of the computer printing and storing all the experiences karma. The whole body is fully computerized mechanism. The soul which is built the body in the womb of the mother according to blueprint, it was carrying over from generation to generation, is wonderful moving within the body and is linked with the universal energy field. Consciousness, feeling, knowing, experience, imprinting, and reflecting processes mysteriously working from the soul up to the universal and beyond to its primordial state. Now we can know our greatness. We are microcosm, macrocosm, and Brahman. Expand ourselves and visualize all the evolutionary process from the static state up to the state of a man is the Leela of conscious only. We know now that we are conscious and conscious is everything. Realization of conscious is the realization of God, the Almighty, the static state, the primordial state of the universe and truth. In short, conscious first order of motion is evolution. There the evolution of universe, the play of universal magnetism. Evolution of conscious in inanimate masses. The universal magnetism works as conscious with its characteristic significance of pattern, precision, and regularity. Conscious is second order, that is perceptual ability. Evolution of living beings play of biomagnetism. In the evolutionary ladder of consciousness in living beings, in addition to the order of motion, conscious evolves as perceptual ability. In all living beings with the three aspects, namely cognition, experience, and discriminations through biomagnetism. In short, the living being is not restricted to sensation and feelings. It includes all the values of unified force and its miraculous functions. The unified force has plenum force and consciousness inherent in primordial state of static silence. These three qualities blossom into evolution, mutation, and the cause and effect system, the dynamic state of universe. All these qualities of potential and manifestations can be realized in the state of living being. Conclusion: the primordial state of the universe is the absolute space, the unified force. The inherent character of the universe is consciousness. For a clear understanding, we can visualize the inherent force is the absolute space as consciousness. In that state, we cannot separate the unified force from consciousness. The phenomena and its character consciousness emerges as a fractional unit that becomes the energy particle. The first motion is the energy particle, a tiny whirling wave. This is distinct from stillness and motion. The consciousness in the nature of force space is characterized in three distinct stages of order of motion with the three inseparable qualities in everything, whether it is particle, mass, or the entire universe, pattern, precision, and regularity. These five aspects of nature. To realize the absolute space and this inseparable quality, conscious five aspects of nature should be understood. The evolution, functions, and results of the nature are very complicated. However, these can be simply understood even for a layman if one first understood the four core principles and their six results. Friends, I wish you all good health, long life, enough wealth, peace, and prosperity, linking my conscious with Almighty. P plus, thank you. வாழ்க வளமுடன், வாழ்க வளமுடன், வாழ்க வளமுடன்.
Thanks, Senior Professor Dr. N.A.Perumal, for such powerful lecture on consciousness mind with solid references of Vethathiri Maharishi. You have made all listeners sync with the frequency of Maharishi in this speech. Thanks once again, sir. Now, we would like to invite Sky Professor Dr.Sakthidharan Paramashivam Karunanidhi from UK Sky Yoga Center for concluding speech. A brief intro about him. Dr. Sakthidharan Paramashivam Karunanidhi hails from Erode, UG in Coimbatore Medical College, MD from National Institute of Health and Family Welfare, New Delhi, presently at the United Kingdom as the Director of Public Health leading the response to COVID-19 in Lancashire. He is a gratitude of AIL Global Health Leadership Initiative USA with an interest in addressing inequalities and justice. He is an assistant professor in UK with an ardent desire to explore the application of Vethathirian using Western philosophical and scientific methods. He is currently pursuing an open course with Royal Institute of Philosophy, London. Over to you, sir.
வாழ்க வையகம், வாழ்க வையகம், வாழ்க வளமுடன். குரு வாழ்க, குருவே துணை. என்னெனப் புனைவேன், யாரெனப் புகழ்வேன், தான் தனதிழந்தேன், தன்னிலை உணர்ந்தேன். இந்நிலை எவரும் அருகுவரானால், மலர்வது மனமே, மகிழ் போகமுமே. தெரிவதும் அதுவே, தெளிவதும் அறிவே. My intellectual souls. நான் மகரிஷியை நேர்ல பார்த்ததில்ல, நினைவுல அடிக்கடி பார்க்கறது உண்டு. அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு சமயத்துல தோன்றின ஒரு சின்ன கவி தான் இது. இதை மகரிஷிக்கு என்னுடைய குரு காணிக்கையாக அளிப்பதில் பெரும் மகிழ்ச்சி கொள்கிறேன். ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ், our culture is so rich. We have defined manas thousands of years ago. In the Western culture, it has only started to occur in the philosophical explorations in the last 600 to 700 years. It started as recognition of mental state being different to physical state. And it was always connected to God. And God is still a subject of debate. Through the course of philosophical explorations, there was a time when mind was reduced to be one and the same as physical matter. Even now, science cannot go beyond that. Brain scans, when we experience pain, see fibers firing. Likewise, when we meditate, different parts of the brain lighting up. Always, often gets reduced to mind being one and the same as physical, although it may be in the brain that we currently are able to define and see, but previously not. And then there is still debate. I can experience pain, but not express it. If I don't express it, different parts of brain lights up. So the debate goes on. As maybe mind is not in the brain, but inside oneself. And then there is a opposite thought. It is not inside oneself, but it is a reaction to what happens outside in the external world. And so the debate continues. And what is fascinating is there is a common platform in which both these arguments can be conceived and justified. But the very process of proving one school of thought right and the other school of thought wrong or less right itself has become a barrier for understanding the universal being. And to understand anything, whether it is science or any concept, the total understanding can only be experienced when we know the origins, the function, the relationship of whatever we are trying to understand with other things we know, and how the end happens. And today, Dr. N.A.Perumal very clearly set out Maharishi's concepts and thinking. There is a problem, which is a problem of language and problem of interpretation, which I believe is a barrier for fully realizing Vethathirian, particularly in taking the Vethathirian to the rest of the human society across the world. It may be, and it is being understood in our own language, but when it comes to translating that across the world, we have a job in hand as the World Community Services Center and Vethathirians. That can only happen with critical thinking and reasoning, and not accept anything we hear as gospel. For example, consciousness and being conscious. Are they the same? If we are conscious, we are able to perceive things, we can think. But what is it that actually is making us conscious? And if consciousness is different to being conscious, how can we define that? How can we describe that? Likewise, mind. If mind is not a physical state, and if one has to have physical matter to manifest another physical matter, how can mind, not being a physical state, change a physical state? It's the next question. But these are all the things that I believe is already very clearly outlined by Maharishi. If we just even go back to what Dr. N.A.Perumal was saying on the different states of consciousness and different manifestations of consciousness, we can understand, and we have seen in this series, difference between Ullam, Karumayam, Manam, Yennam, Moolai. Often mind gets interpreted as the same as the brain, but we know as Vethathirians, they are not the same. But to explain this, we need the method and the modality to justify the beliefs in Vethathirian using the modern day methodologies, both philosophical methods and scientific methods. What science can't see because it is beyond observation and experimentation, reasoning can make it visible. what reasoning can make it visible, scientific methods can complement to justify that belief. And this is not for the sake of just explaining Vethathirian. It is about application of Vethathirian to bring reforms. So many injustices, so many inequalities. Even if you take pandemic, not only it is affecting the economy, but also our own mental health and mind. So application of these concepts in the modern world has never been so important. And I just wanted to highlight a few areas for us to continue to focus on our research and our teachings and developments. The first one, language. How do we explain words like manasachi and manas and consciousness in many in our own languages? Words don't convey the meaning in itself. It's the experience that conveys the meaning. That's number one. Second, how do we justify Vethathirian in the modern world using the modern methods of philosophical inquiries and scientific inquiries? Particularly, one thing that I feel is very relevant here is the understanding and justification of the universal being, force and consciousness being the fundamental characteristics of that exists, out of which all the other things originate. So the origins of everything needs to be communicated in the modern methods. And we have got the knowledge as Vethathirians. We have the methods. Maharishi has given it all like in a concentrated squash. You can put one drop, you can't drink that one drop. Depends on our ability to understand and take it. So we have a job in hand to make it to the necessary concentrations based on the time, place, and the context that we are working. And then the final one is the functioning itself, the functioning of the mind itself and its applications, not only in mental health of individuals. And here is the next phase of this, application of mind in organizations and society. If one individual has a mind, surely an organization has a mind. Surely a society has a mind. And if mind can bring about change, and if mind is the one that can bring about the expression of love and compassion, then imagine the application of Vethathirian and the definitions and understanding of mind, not only in mental health, but also in various other societal problems. In Maharishi's days, war was the main problem. Now, war is the main problem, but also is climate change, also is the nature and our duty to protect the nature. And with the same cause and effect, to bring about that effect, we need to have the mindset, and we have the tools and technologies, and we have a duty to continue our inquiry with critical thinking and reasoning and bring about the change that Maharishi has always wanted to see. With these remarks, I just wanted to thank Dr. Rabindranath and his team for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts as a concluding session for this very subject of mind and consciousness. வாழ்க வையகம், வாழ்க வையகம், வாழ்க வளமுடன்.
Thank you so much, sir. வாழ்க வளமுடன். Now we invite Dr. Prakash, Principal, Vethathiri Maharishi College of Yoga, Chennai, on the important announcement about feedback form.
Valka Vaiyakam, Valka Valamudan. Be blessed by the divine power. We have a very wonderful session on Consciousness 360 given by Dr. N.A.Perumal. Just I want to add one more point to this. See, my PhD subject is related to computer and mind. And one of the speech given by Dr. N.A.Perumal around 2010 or 11, I think, he has given a word organic computer. So even though the word it is given by Swamiji, but during the speech I come to know from through N.A.Perumal. It was very impressed me because of this that speech when I heard from Dr. N.A.Perumal, I took that as a subject in my PhD. So similarly, today also Dr. N.A.Perumal has discussed about mind and brain as a hardware part and mind as a software part. He has discussed and a lot of new things he has been given. So here just I want to be informed to the audience that feedback, I mean, I discussed with Dr. Rabindranath that feedback is very important because this is kind of an international level. People are discussing, exchanging their ideas and other things. So as a Vethathiri Maharishi College, we like to be volunteer ourselves to collect various audience feedback. So we have created a form and we will share with you here in chat box, and as well as the there is a group, WhatsApp group will be there. There also we are giving. So we are, because there are certain people who cannot ask questions and we may have certain things will be there. So you can, whatever may be there, you just record things so that we will get back to you. That is one thing. Second thing is, this is World Community Service Center is evolved as we are ISO 9001 organizations. So every meeting we need to get the feedback also. So like this in a various level, feedback is very important and we want to hear from you. So this program we want to be improved, and many people think that to filling the form is very lengthy and other things. We are planning to give in a various ways to collect feedback. Today, this sessions we are giving a normal form, and the subsequent weeks we like to give you a different way of giving a form so that it is easy for you to collect it. Different types we can give you the forms. So here today we will share this in a chat. We are sharing this feedback form I have already sent to you. You just click it and give your feedback form. Thanks for the opportunities. Any feedback also about this whole program, you can talk to us and we will like to hear from you. Thank you for your opportunities.
Thank you, sir. வாழ்க வளமுடன். இப்பொழுது கேள்வி பதில் நேரம். அன்பர்கள் ஜூம் ஆப்பில் ஹேண்ட் ரைஸ் பட்டனை பிரஸ் செய்து தங்களின் சந்தேகங்களை கேட்கலாம். We are unmuting you